Great. Well, hi everyone. I'm Stacey Barr, and welcome to this webcast, 4 ways that leaders can measure and monitor progress. Leaders, and I guess all of us really, know how essential it is to demonstrate if the time and the money and the effort that we spend is having the intended impact on our organization's success. But getting useful data and measures that accurately provide this kind of impact evidence, that can often feel a little out of reach, especially amidst a lot of overwhelm of an excessive number of less than insightful activity measures. So for any organization to perform, it's really important that leaders monitor both activity and impact. And by improving the balance among 4 types of progress measures that we're exploring together today, leaders can make sure that the right activities are leading to the right impacts. So in this webcast with me and our Canada Pump partner, Louise Watson, you're going to see how these 4 progress measures come from a framework that helps us find that balance I was talking about between measuring input versus impact or measuring labor versus leverage. Now, in case you don't yet know either Louise or me, here is a super quick introduction. So that's me there on the left. I'm Stacey. My career began in the early 1990s, and since then, organizational performance measurement has always been my area of expertise. It's also almost how long ago I created our performance measure methodology, PUMP. Uh, and, and over this time, PUMP's evolved beyond just measurement into a really great supporting methodology for just about every other strategic performance management framework that we know of. One of PUMP's powers is its ability to design meaningful measures that provide direct evidence of anything that we want to monitor. Now, progress of our strategy execution is one of the important things, of course, to measure and monitor. And that's really what we're going to explore today, of course, with my co-host, Louise Watson. So Louise is our Canada Pump partner, and she brings Pump in all its shapes and forms to businesses and organizations all across Canada. And we've been working together, Louise, since 2013.
It's true. And hello, Stacey. And I want to welcome everybody that's joined today. Special shout out to those of you that I've worked with. It's great to see just so many names and organizations with which I've worked with today. So thanks for joining us. And I can't wait to get to know all of you who are new to Pump. And yes, it has been 13 years since I've been training and consulting with Pump. And I love it today as much as I loved it when I first came across it 13 years ago. And I just recently resigned from a role as a vice president, going through disruption. And since that time, I've been partnering with Stacey to help my clients improve how and what they measure. And I've noticed that clients often are not aware of the different types of measures and when to use which ones. So today, Stacey and I will guide you in an exploration of these 4 types of measures. They are all progress measures in some way or another. And I want you to think about which one is the most powerful in creating a performance culture and achieving your strategic direction. So think about that as we go through it. Okay, so you want a quick little orientation of what we're going to cover today? So we're about to discover a framework that defines the 4 distinct types of progress measures we need in order to monitor strategy execution, impact, and success. Then we'll spend some time on each type of progress measure to make it easier to know when to use it and how to make it work. And we'll throw a spotlight on the one type of progress measure that's key to creating a performance culture and achieving strategic direction. But it also tends to be the one that is most elusive. So, which of the 4 progress in creating a performance measurement culture, and your next opportunity to learn Pump. So we're going to make sure that for those of you who still want to learn, take the deep dive that we'll tell you all about being able to create and use progress measures that you need. But for now, let me quickly give you an overview of how to help your organization create a performance culture and achieve its strategic direction. So, how can we help you before we dive into the rest of it? Well, there's these free webcasts, and like today's, they're designed to give you a taste of the many ways we can support your organization with strategic performance management. We know that leveling up your measurement skills requires deeper dives and more formal learning opportunities. So let's take a quick minute to review some of those options. Well, our flagship programs include the Pump Blueprint. And we use it for measuring performance more meaningfully and for supporting your strategy execution, because what we want to do, we all want to achieve our strategic direction. And the other, because we do, especially our leaders want to achieve it, is a special program that we do for evidence-based leadership. It's a program that helps executives create a more measurable strategy that everyone understands and can align their work to. And that alignment is in particular often really needed within organizations. So, because we're facilitating the implementation of these programs, it takes practice. And we also offer options that support our clients during the implementation of both. Our entire our entire Pump team not only believes in, but have also experienced the difference Pump makes in the performance of our clients' organizations. We appreciate that you've joined us today to learn more about this power of Pump, or to even deepen how you currently use Pump for those that are trained. And I am always happy to talk to you, to chat with you live in any way that you prefer. And all you have to do, there's a couple ways to do it, is you can go to Pump Academy, so pump.academy. And for those of you who are not as familiar with Stacey's new name for her organization, pump.academy/programs has all the information that you need to build your skill and your confidence. And here's my email. And maybe Deb might also pop these into chat so that you have them. And these are ways that you can get a hold of me. Just email me, hello@adurstrategy.com. And if you stay with us till the end of this webcast, we'll share more details about the 2 workshops we have coming up before the end of this year in October and in December. They are both Pump Blueprint training workshops for Canada. And there is an early bird deadline coming up at the end of September. So stay with us and we'll let you know more about it.
Great. So let's get into this framework of progress measures. So progress happens to both our results and our activity. Well, it's because it's useful to know how well we're reaching our goals, and it's also useful to know how well we're doing the activities that will reach those goals. So we want to make progress in our results, which is the impact that we're trying to make. And we want to make progress in our activity, all those tasks and projects that are the input to make that impact. Now, progress also happens over time and in the moment. It's useful to know how we're doing right now, and it's useful to know what level of capability we can hold over time. So we want to make progress in our capability over time, ideally in a way that creates leverage. And we want to make progress right now through the labor that we each undertake in our day-to-day work. So there is a natural relationship among these 4 dimensions, and it gives us a framework of 4 types of progress measures. The first type is quota measures. Now, these are measures where we quantify task completion progress as the amount met of a quota by a point in time. So very often quota measures are assigned to individual people to meet in their everyday work. So a few examples are compliance inspections performed. There might be a quota of 5 per day. Number of new curriculum resources trialed with a quota of 10 per class, and number of telehealth consultations with a quota of 20 per week. The second type of progress measure is activity measures. Now, these are measures where we quantify volume of work progress as a level of activity completed or maybe output produced over time. Not like the quota measures. The quota measures are as at this point in time. Activity measures are monitoring through time. So more often activity measures get assigned to teams or business units, but they can be assigned to individuals. So examples of activity measures are like these: the number of welfare applications processed per week, number of tutoring sessions per month, number of diagnostic tests performed per month. Now, our third type of progress measure we call status measures. Now, these are measures where we quantify a result to date progress. So that's a cumulative total as at a current point in time. Sometimes that result to date could even be compared to a targeted total, maybe for a total for the current year. So examples of status measures are very common one: the percentage of annual budget spent, year-to-date school attendance rate, and total number of telehealth subscribers. So this is telling us at a point in time, how much have we done so far? What's our cumulative total, I guess, cumulative total progress. Our fourth type of progress measure we call performance measures. And these are measures where we quantify performance result progress. And it's like a level of performance capability over time. So examples of performance measures are things like serious road crash rate per month, percentage of students meeting literacy standards by quarter, or percentage of patients with unplanned readmissions by week. There you go. With this collection of 4 types of progress measures, we can monitor our results and our activity both in the moment and also through time or over time. Now, finding a balance is the trick, because one of these types of progress measures is both the most valuable, as Louise mentioned before, to create a performance culture and achieve a strategic direction. But this very valuable progress measure is also the one that people find the most difficulty to design. You're probably already guessing which one it is. But before we tackle that question, let's see just how much you're using each of these types of progress measures at the moment. So we'll do a quick poll to do this. Let me launch it now. And the idea is that you just tick any or all of those types of progress measures that you know are currently being used in your organization right now. So go right ahead. Do you use quota measures? Yes, well, give it a tick. So that's task completion progress at a point in time. Do you use activity measures? Are you measuring the volume of activity progress through time or over time? Do you use status measures, those results to date? Where are we at right now? How much progress have we achieved as of now? And do you use performance measures where you're monitoring performance results over time? I'll give you a little bit more time to finish thinking about that. I think we're just at about 2/3 of you, so just a little bit longer. And we might wrap it up there, and I'll share the results with you. So there you go, everyone. And Louise, just Louise, as you know, we've run this webcast twice already with other parts of the world. And I've got to tell you, Louise, the results for this come out different everywhere. So clearly here, activity measures are the dominant one. I mean, you work with these people. What do you think? Is that surprising to you?
No, when I look at most of my clients' strategies, they tend to really focus on initiatives and actions and things that on projects and things that need to get done. Not everybody, of course, but it probably is a bit easier to measure how things perhaps or whether they're done or not. But I guess I'm a little surprised at just how low performance measures are, since many of these people have taken training.
Yeah, but
So
maybe quite a few haven't. So or are still in the early stages of getting
yeah,
performance measures set up.
exactly. Or
Yeah,
in that transition, because
yeah.
we all know that it's these other things are easier to measure. They're easier to do. And we always don't we like to avoid things that are too difficult sometimes.
And sometimes we just haven't got the bandwidth or the time to do the difficult things either. We just put them on hold for a little bit. But
Yes.
um, yeah, well, we'll come to that. So yeah, if those results surprised anyone, maybe just make a quick comment in the chat. Let's see. Well, Kara's saying change comes slowly against corporate culture, and they're wise words, Kara. I
Mhm.
think
Sure. That's true.
absolutely. Okay, I'll take those poll results away. We'll keep moving. Now, each of the progress measures, each of those four types, they each have a role, but I think often we're using some of them too much and others not enough, or we can use them for the wrong purpose as well. So, what Louise and I are going to do is throw a spotlight onto each of these progress measures to understand them a bit more, including when and how you might use each type. Um, I just see Vera's got a comment there too, Louise. There's a lot of pushback sometimes in the organization to do real performance measurements. That's something that I think you and I would both say we see happen.
Yeah, people don't like to change. Well, I shouldn't say that. People like the idea of change, but often it's quite hard because we get pulled back into old ways. So
Mm.
I totally understand that, especially if you feel familiar, right? So change creates quite a lot of emotion that we often don't recognize.
And you're right, familiarity has a lot of inertia for sure.
Yeah,
Okay, shall we dive in, Lou?
sure. Quota measures. So let's do it. Yeah, let's look a little deeper at these. So quota measures quantify task completion progress as the amount met of a quota by a point in time. And they basically count how many times a task was completed, usually by an individual, in a set period of time, like a day or a week. So let's check in again on the examples of quota measures that we looked at. So let's look, for example, for a vehicle safety inspector. They may have a quota to perform 5 compliance inspections per day. And in boosting learning outcomes, actually I have quite a few universities and learning schools in a lot of the work that I do. So in boosting learning outcomes, teachers may be given a quota of new curriculum resources trialed, aiming for, let's say, 10 per class that they teach. And a doctor in general practice might have a quota of, for example, number of telehealth consultations, aiming at 20 per week. So it's always great to hear from our audience as to what it looks like for them. So if you have quota measures used in your organization, let's take a moment to think about some examples, or even you just might have some ideas. And when you're ready, type those examples or ideas of quota measures into the chat. We'll give you about 15 seconds or so to do that. So start whenever you're ready. Number of files coded per week. There we
Oh
go.
yeah, good one, Kara.
Mm-hmm.
Number of learners trained in a training program. Spot on, Vera.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Example from software development, number of user stories or number of new features completed per sprint in a program increment.
Yeah,
It's on the right track, isn't it?
that was
Number
a good
of
one.
risks with mitigation strategies.
Yeah, that could be. Michelle, I'm almost thinking, depending on what situation you're in, that could almost be a status measure. So hang on to that idea and
Mm-hmm.
see if you agree or not when we get to status measures. Treatise is
Yeah.
number of proposals submitted. That totally could be a quota measure if you've got to aim for a certain number.
Mm-hmm.
Heaps of
How
examples, Lou.
about yeah, how about reduction in ED visits? Is that thinking what ED is? Reduction, it's not emergency, maybe it's emergency visits.
Emergency department, maybe? Yeah, I don't
Emergency
know.
department, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
it is. There we
emergency
go.
department.
Emergency
Thanks, Tara.
department. Thank you. Yeah.
That could be Tara, but that might actually be, depending on what it is, that could almost be a performance measure if you're tracking that over time. So let's see.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, great examples.
Yeah, they are. Should we have just one last one?
One last.
Number of members recruited and number of members enrolled. I guess there's two different measures in that one. I guess yeah, number of members recruited, right? If it's just about how many, it's a status measure. And
Quota
then you'd
measure,
probably
yeah.
want to look at, and then you'd probably performance, it might be how many are moving to enrollment.
Yeah,
Nice.
great. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. And because let's look at chat. Okay, so done right, quota measures can help us improve progress in getting things done day to day through disciplined action. So one of the best ways to improve the achievement of quota measures is to design our day-to-day tasks so they are as efficient as possible. This might mean providing checklists so only right steps are taken, or providing tools that help automate some of those steps. So for example, to help vehicle safety inspectors to meet their quotas of 4 compliance inspections per day, it might help to provide each of them with a full set of digital diagnostic tools, like inspection apps that integrate with a wider range of vehicle onboard diagnosis systems. So here we are talking about what we might do in order to achieve what we're trying to achieve, right, Stacey?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I was just responding to Stephen's question in the chat. Does a quota have to have a target like 10 files processed per day? Yes, it does. It's exactly what we mean
Yeah.
by a quota, for sure.
Another name for a target, really, isn't it?
It is. It's an in the moment target. Yeah. Okay, so there are definitely some benefits of using quota measures as part of monitoring progress. One is that they provide very tangible focus for people to direct their daily efforts, having to hit that 10 files processed per day, very tangible focus. Another is that they build the muscle of discipline in getting things done. They also give very quick feedback that people can potentially use to find improvements in the design of their tasks. So they're straight up benefits of quota measures, but quota measures also have risks. We have to be careful of these because it's easy to rely too heavily on them or use quota measures for the wrong reasons. Now, firstly, if the results or impacts aren't clear first, quota measures can drive people to hit short-term targets that don't really matter. It's also a risk if they're used to make comparisons between people, even between teams. They can inadvertently encourage gaming of the measures and unhealthy competitive behavior. And a third risk is that they can put too much focus on hitting numbers and take people's attention away from the quality of the outputs that they're producing. So for these reasons, it's best to set quota measures only after the desired impact or results are clearly defined and understood by everyone. So we want quota measures to help monitor and improve the day-to-day habits that most contribute to achieving the strategic direction for the organization. I hope you can see that tie there that we're trying to that we want to establish with them. Now, without a target and by monitoring them through time, a quota measure is not a quota measure anymore. It becomes an activity measure. Louise.
Yeah. And activity measures quantify volume of work progress. as a level of activity completed or output produced over time. In other words, they count the amount of work completed. And let's check in again on those examples of activity measures. So, a Social Security department might measure the number of welfare applications processed per week. A college might measure the number of tutoring sessions per month. A medical practice might measure the number of diagnostic tests performed per month. Always in the context, though, as we mentioned about, we always need to know our results first. And these are some examples of how we might measure what they want to achieve. So are you ready again for some audience interaction? You're probably getting used to this by now, time 3. So what we'd like to hear from you are there activity measures used in your organization and you want to share them with us? So take a moment to think about those examples, or even they could be ideas that you have. And when you're ready, type those examples or ideas into the chat box, okay? Of those
Oh,
activity
thanks.
measures.
Starting to come quick, Louise. Number of papers
They're
published.
picking up.
Yeah, Cara, absolutely. You can imagine, well, I don't know how long it takes to publish a paper, depends on what field you're in, but maybe every quarter you'd track how many have we published, and that's certainly an activity measure.
Anybody else? Anyone else want to share some activity measures? Number of applications processed.
Yeah,
Total number
tracking
of
that through time.
learners trained. Yeah. Total number of learners trained in the last fiscal year.
Oh, Vera, you've got a perfect example of a status measure there. So probably not an activity measure, but if you were tracking the number of learners trained by month, every month, then you would have the activity measure for sure.
Isn't that an important thing to actually understand the difference of, right? Because of the cumulative nature of status measures versus some of these other ones, which are in a shorter time frame.
Yeah, they're not cumulative at all. It's, May is not equal to the sum of the 4 months before plus May. May is just May.
May is just May. Yeah, I
yeah.
love that. Yeah, May is just May.
Lots of examples: position vacancies filled, number of research projects completed, number of vaccines administered per immunizer per hour. Yeah. Really good examples there. Thanks, everyone. That's great.
Yeah, well done. Okay, so because activity measures are counting the number of tasks or process outputs produced over time, line charts are an example of how to track them because they're over time, right? These ones are over time. I know why it's good a way to track them. In Pump, however, we use XMR charts. So many of you, those trained in Pump, that will be familiar with you, and Stacy loves to also call them smart charts. Because they do even more than a line chart can do. They're one more level of information. And they are the most accurate visualization for highlighting, are you ready? Signals of change and quantifying our performance gaps, right? Strategy is about the future. So a performance gap is the difference between where we are now and where we want to be. Like the difference between the current baseline and a future target. That's your performance gap. And done right, activity measures are about improving progress in output productivity over time. So producing more of the right outputs is helped by standardizing, streamlining, and even automating parts of our work processes. This is the getting more efficient part. So for example, to increase the progress of number of welfare applications processed per week, the welfare team might collaborate to standardize on their agreed highest priority application assessment criteria. So what I love about this is demonstrating when we think about actions versus when we think about measuring what we want to achieve, right? Actions are still important, but we have to do them intentionally, like you show the examples here, versus as we talked about in the poll, so many people were doing actions first, where what it's showing us here is we need a result that we're measuring before we choose our actions. Is that right, Stacy?
In the context of results, activity measures absolutely become much more relevant. But if we too quickly, well, I guess we'll talk about it anyway, because
Yes.
just like quota measures, we have benefits of using activity measures and we have some risks. So let's dive into that. The benefits of activity measures, of course, is that they're really easy for people to relate to because they're measuring the outputs that they're very close to in their day-to-day work. Very
Mhm.
natural. And they are also the basis for measuring and improving productivity. And productivity matters. And that what we mean by that, I guess, is the rate at which outputs can be produced relative to the resources that are used to produce them. And a third benefit of activity measures is they can help with matching resources and schedules to changing levels of workload. So they're a really good operational measure to help make sure that we're not falling behind because we haven't got the resources. But again, they're not all good, right? There are some risks that we have to be aware of to make the best use of them. And again, like quota measures, we can either rely too heavily on these or use them for the wrong reasons. So activity measures, like Louise was saying before, have no meaning without the context of results. So they're not measuring results. There's a different measure for that. Activity measures are still measuring activity, but they'll measure it in a meaningful way when they have the context of results. Activity measures are most definitely not evidence of result or impact. I'm sure we all know that. They can also drive too much focus on productivity at the expense of quality. So productivity is a good thing to focus on, but not when we lose quality as a consequence. And the third thing that could be risky is on their own, they can be misleading. They can sometimes even be misinterpreted without additional companion measures that track like the complexity or the difficulty of the work that's required to produce the same outputs. So activity measures will be most valuable when they're chosen to support result-oriented measures and when they're used in companion with other measures that give an appropriate amount of context about the complexity of the activities being measured. We want activity measures to help monitor and improve productivity so that we can make the most of limited resources and to create capacity for the work needed to achieve the strategic direction for the organization. So it's a different way of thinking about the value of activity measures. Now, Ilya, you're saying our team is often challenged as activity measures are often misinterpreted as impact measures. You're not alone, Ilya. It's like that in so many organizations. Why? I have no clue, but it's a tide that we're always finding we have to swim against when we really want to measure impact measures. But I'm hoping that this framework, and Louise, I know you've experienced this already, putting measures in this framework helps people see a bit more clearly the difference between impact and activity and how to get that balance that we're striving for. And to get that balance, let's continue on, Louise, with status measures.
Yeah. Yes. And in my work with the teams, when I use this with them, it does help them because they can see the choice. So let's segue into status measures, which tend to be quite popular, I have to say. And I've worked with clients who really want me to believe that their status measure is actually a performance measure. So, again, it's like understanding the difference is so important because status measures quantify result to date progress. And that's a really important part of it. Result to date progress. And it's a I have the biggest cumulative total at the current point in time. And often they also have a target total to reach, say, at the end of the year. So let's look at all those examples again. And, audience, please feel free to ask us questions or to challenge us with your thoughts at the same time. Just pop it into chat. So most government agencies will measure percent annual budget spent. Now, obviously, to get a current snapshot of how much has been spent compared to a total that was allocated. So this is very common. People want to measure their budget, and it is a status measure. And then there's an education department, which monitor the year-to-date school attendance rate. right? Which is important to know. And it might be aiming for an attendance rate of at least 90% for the year. And a hospital may regularly check on the total number of telehealth subscribers against a target to reach 1,000 by the end of the year. So we start to see what makes up a status measure. So let's hear from you guys now that we've given you some examples. Do you use status measures in your organization? And let's take a moment to think about some examples. And once again, pop those into chat as you think about them. So we'll give you a little bit of time and start typing.
Even if you just have an idea of what one is, an example, put that in the chat as well.
Total number of software product defects fixed since beginning of the year. Well, that's cumulative, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good example.
And benefits utilization. I think you'd have to tell us a little bit more about that for us to know, Michelle.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. That would be good. Meg says total dollars earned in income in the year. Yeah, like a cumulative revenue. Absolutely.
Yeah. How about this one? Percent of workloads deployed, as it keeps moving, to the cloud. Percent of workloads deployed. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, absolutely. If you've got a list of workloads and you're gradually trying to get them into the cloud, then you can track how many you have at any point in time, and you're aiming to get maybe 80% or 100% of them.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Percent of staff utilizing benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're aiming to get more and more staff to utilize benefits, then you'd be looking at your, what percentage of staff at this point in time are you using them? Okay, let's try and increase that. We're aiming to get to 90 or 100 by the end of the year. So yeah, thanks for clarifying that, Michelle.
Yeah. And Trina, hey, nice to hear from you, Trina. Percent of consulting projects won, proposals won over proposals submitted.
Yeah, Louise, I think, and Trina, I think that really can be if you're measuring that in a cumulative way through the year. So at the end of the year, you want to say this is our total. But that's also something that you could measure just monthly as well. Like each month, what percentage of the proposals that you submitted were won. So it's an example of how the data can be looked at in two different ways and become two different types of progress measure. Yeah.
Oh, percent of vaccine compliance. What do you think about that one?
Again, yeah, Sandra, I guess I'm making an assumption about what the measure means. Is it that everyone who's supposed to have a vaccine gets one, and so then you could make it as a status measure for sure. There you go. We could sit here all. Thanks, Sandra. Yes, she's confirming. Great. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was
to you,
good. That
Louise.
was useful. Well done, team. I love you participating. Because status measures give us a snapshot of the current level of progress. That's what's important. We can track them in this cumulative bar chart. So a bar chart can be a good way to visualize it. It's best to avoid using a line chart because line charts suggest trends and we cannot see trends in status measures. This is a really important differentiator. But done right, status measures are about giving us a quick overview of our current level of progress relative to our current end state, or our desired end state, I should say. So reaching the finish line on time really depends on the other progress measures, which more easily point to possible improvement actions than do status measures. So for example, to increase the likelihood of reaching a student attendance rate of at least 90% for the year, the education department would need to learn from and act on other measures for the factors that most affect student attendance. They can learn from or make decisions from the status. We can't learn from or make decisions from the status measures alone.
That's it. They really are the bigger picture endpoint kind of quantification of progress, I guess.
Yeah.
And again, like anything, there are benefits and risks of using them. So the benefits of status measures for monitoring progress is that they are, again, very easy for people to relate to. They're so common in our organizations, particularly with the financial measures. They also let us know how far away we are from reaching the finish line, the end result we're looking for over a particular time frame. And if we have also set a projected path or some expected values over time for where we want that status measure to track, we can see how far away we are from that. Are we on track? Are we ahead? Or are we behind where we plan to be at this point in time? It's also hard for people to misinterpret a status measure or draw the wrong conclusions from them.
Yeah.
There are risks. We can rely too heavily on them. We can use them for the wrong thing. The first risk we'd want to avoid is that they cannot show us trends over time, and therefore no feedback about whether our progress is speeding up or slowing down. We only know at this point in time, are we behind or are we ahead? But we've got no idea if, even if we are behind, we are actually accelerating quite quickly. We can't see that from a status measure. We can see it from other measures, but not a status measure. They can also make us react with a short-term focus, partly because of that problem I just mentioned, to go, well, I'm not happy with this. We've got to kick it up for next time. So let's just go, try to hit the expected cumulative total we need next month, rather than digging deeper to understand what's really happening and what kind of course correction is going to be the most appropriate. And with status measures, we can't see variation over time, variation in what performance is doing, and the measure values can show us that. Because it's in those measure value variations that we see patterns and important signals. Sorry, Lou, what were you going to say?
Oh, well, York has a comment in here that I thought I'd just bring up and see what you think of it. He says that he agrees that on a single status measure, you cannot see a trend, but taking two related status measures and, for example, seeing the gap widen between them over time would tell a trend. What do you think of that, Stacey?
I need to think about that more, to be really honest, York and Lou, because I'm wondering if we're looking at the difference between two status measures, what are we actually looking at? What are we trying to measure? What does that gap mean? Yeah, let me think about it. My first reaction is I'm feeling a little wary about it, but I can't tell you why. But I'm not going to rule it out. So yeah, leave it with me, York. I'll have a think about it.
Good, nice.
Okay, so yeah, we can't see variation in status measures, and it's in the variation that we see signals of change, when the change is happening, how big the change is, what kind of change it is. And we need that. We need to know that so that we can take the appropriate course correction. So we want status measures to give us a big picture snapshot of where progress of our results is currently sitting right now. And that can show us how far we have left to go to fully achieve our strategic direction. But status measures will be most valuable only when they're used alongside performance measures in particular, but also they are supported by the other measures too, which give us information that the status measures are missing. And performance measures are, of course, our fourth and final type of progress measure.
And though we touch upon the other ones, performance measures are really where we focus the most in our pump training because they are the most elusive, but also can be very powerful. So performance measures quantify performance result progress. So for those of you who might not be familiar with the term result, we actually mean that strategic goal you're trying to achieve. So measures quantify performance result progress. How close are you getting to achieving your goal? As a level of performance capability over time. And what they generally measure is our current capability of a business process or system to routinely achieve a particular level of a performance result. So let's look at those examples that Stacey reviewed again so that we can start to process them in our mind. A transport department might measure serious road crash rate by month. And the rate means crashes per 1,000 kilometers traveled. And it's a measure of the safety capability of the road system. Provincial primary schools might measure percent of students meeting literacy standards by quarter. And it's a measure, and it measures one aspect of the curriculum and teaching capability of the school system. A hospital might measure percent patients with unplanned readmissions by week. And it measures the capability of the hospital system to fix patient injury or illness with the first treatment plan. So, are we ready? Are we ready for some more audience interaction? This time, we're having you think about your performance measures used in your organization based on the definition of a performance measure. So take a moment, think about some examples or some ideas, and when you're ready, type those examples or ideas into the performance, into the chat. We'll give you about the same thing, about 15 seconds.
Yeah. Crystal, you're starting us off. Percentage of patients left without being seen. Yeah, performance measure. We don't want that. That's a result we don't want. We want to know how much is happening.
Want. For sure. Nice example. Okay, and there's percent of decisions escalated for appeal of those, the percentage of decisions upheld by the appeal body.
Escalated for appeal and then upheld. Yeah, yeah. Michelle, you've got some tricky ones there to get my head around this early in the morning.
Yeah, it takes me a minute. Yeah, it's because it almost feels like two different measures for a moment there, but I guess it's the relation of one to the other.
But yeah, I'm thinking that's not a bad example. Para has percentage of clients who report that the agent created a psychologically safe environment. Yeah, that is a performance measure. It's a result we want to manage, and that's a good way to measure it for sure.
Yeah, and it's also I would say quantifying a qualitative result, which is always nice to see an example of. And we are a professional regulatory body. We protect the public, Michelle says.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Michelle.
Okay.
That's good
Yes.
context.
Downtime of a system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so.
Percentage
Maybe
of applicant submissions completed.
I'm going to jump up to.
Yeah.
Where was it?
This is a very popular one. We're getting lots in this one.
Yeah, this is good. Oh, good grief. Oh, yes. Tara, you had the 90th percentile emergency department wait time for physician initial assessment. I wanted to raise this because I love that you're not looking at average wait time. The 90th percentile wait time, that means you are aiming, you're wanting to, you're measuring at the end of the range that you really want to be managing. So I really like that. Not everything has to be a percentage or an average. Great. Oh yeah, you're right, Louise. There's so many I've lost track.
I know, it's awesome.
Any more you wanted to mention before we keep moving?
Well, Daria has percent of identified, hi Daria, nice to see you. Percent of identified capability gaps reduced.
Yep, that's a good one too. All of those examples look great, actually. So yeah, excellent.
That's something about training usually, right? The capability, and they're looking at reducing the gaps through an action would be like, for example, training, right?
That could be it. Daria, feel free to clarify if you want to. But yeah, let's keep going. Great examples. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, well done. Okay. Because performance measures are quantifying results over time, we want to focus on signals of change and how well we're closing our performance gaps. We find the absolute best way of tracking them is using XMR charts, or also called SMART charts. Done right, performance measures are about improving our capability to consistently achieve important performance results over time. And they're usually important because they appear somewhere in some kind of strategic plan, some kind of plan. So we improve this capability by improving or redesigning our business processes that have the biggest impact on those important performance results. So for example, to decrease the percent patients with unplanned readmissions, one process that has a big impact on this might be diagnosis. So the head doctors in each specialization might review their diagnostic processes to see if they are as current as possible with the latest research.
And of course, again, performance measures have their benefits and they have their risks as well. The first benefit of a performance measure is that they focus on results and are generally designed to support strategy, execution, and achievement. And so measuring them can have a very big return on the effort of creating and using them. They're also excellent at showing changes over time. And if they're presented in the right way, and the right way for us is an XMR chart or smart chart, they can follow they follow what is exactly happening in the measure and allow us to have very fast course correction to keep resources focused on closing performance gaps. And also, performance measures focus on capability, organizational capability, which means they can point to root causes that need only be fixed once to almost permanently elevate performance. Therefore, they can have more leverage in creating organizational success than probably any other, well, definitely any other type of progress measure. I'll be so bold as to say that. There are some challenges, though, with performance measures as well. They are definitely harder to identify than the other types of measures, particularly when the results that they should monitor are quite intangible or articulated a little too vaguely. And often new performance measures are quite different to what the organization has traditionally measured. And that can mean that the data needed to calculate them might not be available. And another challenge is that often performance measures are measuring things that aren't 100% within the control of the teams that are using them. And so teams can struggle a bit with that tension between exercising what influence they do have and the pressure to hit targets. So performance measures will be most valuable when they're designed as direct evidence of the performance results that are implied by the current strategic direction and all the business unit goals that align to that direction. We really want performance measures to help us find leverage to change the organization's processes and systems in a way that achieves the strategic direction for the organization. So there you go. Let's bring all of this together. So our framework of progress measures, it's based on monitoring the progress of both activity and results, where activity is the input to produce the results that make the impact that we want. And our framework of progress measures is also based on monitoring progress both in time and over time, so that we can create more leverage over time through the right day-to-day labor. So quota measures, they quantify task completion progress as the amount met of a quota. A quota is a type of target by a point in time. And we track them with simple tallies or actual totals compared to the quotas. And to improve progress in our quota measures, we improve the daily discipline via our design of tasks. Activity measures quantify volume of work progress as a level of activity completed or maybe output produced over time. And we track them using line charts. You can also use XMR charts so that we can look for change over time. And to improve the progress in our activity measures, we improve output productivity by standardizing and streamlining our business systems, processes, and procedures. Status measures, They quantify the result to date progress as a cumulative total, and it's at a current point in time, so far through the year, for example. We track them with a cumulative bar chart to show progression toward the targeted total or desired end state or finish line that we're aiming for. And to improve progress in our status measures, we really have to look to the other related measures, the other types of progress measures to get the clues of what needs to change so that the status measures can shift where we want them to shift. And of course, performance measures, they quantify performance result progress as a level of performance capability over time. And we track them with XMR charts so that we can monitor the changes when they occur and also quantify how well our performance gaps are closing. And to improve progress in our performance measures, we improve capability through our process design. So there are 4 types of progress measures for you. But we did say that one of them is the most valuable for creating a performance culture and for achieving strategic direction. Which one do you think it is?
We gave lots of clues.
We kind of did, Louise. And if those of you who know us, you'd already know the answer before you turned up today. Oh, this is interesting. I'm just watching the poll the results coming in. Half of you have voted. Give you a little bit more time. Which of the 4 types is the most valuable to create culture and achieve strategy? A few more seconds. And close the poll now and share the results with you all. Not a hard question, really.
No, but it's a good one to reinforce.
There you go. Anyone surprised by, for everyone who voted, it was unanimous that performance measures are the ones. Louise, we're not surprised, are we?
No, but you know what I love about this is it's sort of proving it. It's showing what makes an important measure for strategy execution, right? So when we're trying to achieve something often hard, something that involves change, we know which one creates this culture that allows us to see whether we are changing or improving or not in a way that's over time. So I just love how people reached it by looking at all 4 of them together.
Yeah, very nicely said, actually. I hope everyone did experience it exactly the way you described it. Thanks everyone for participating in that, and also all your great interactions as we've gone along. So shall we summarize, Louise, just why we think?
Let's do that. We should say it out loud, right? So why are performance measures most important? So why, you may wonder? They give everyone a focus on results and impact. So what I love about them is that they are direct evidence of whatever it is you're trying to improve and close the gap of. So they are direct evidence of that. And they make us focus in an unbelievable way. I always say, you know, there's nothing like trying to figure out how you're trying to measure your strategy to make your strategy clearer to everyone. And also they make it easier for everyone to align their own activity with, and this is really important as well. So to align it with what's strategically important. So no, not everything that happens to be out in the world of being important, but what's strategically most important. So they make sure that the right activity measures are chosen as well when we're looking at that. Because remember, we need the result and then to be able to choose what the activities we're going to take and then measure those as well. So they set the context for people to design their own daily disciplines to support achievement of the strategy. So for example, if quota measures are used, the teams are looking at driving the right daily focus. And this is a really important conversation to drive for the teams. And they find and build leverage. So for those of you who have taken training, you know we use this word very intentionally because it means about working smarter, trying to work in a way that isn't just about saying, oh, we need more people, we need more money, And it's not about, we just need to get people working more. It's not about that at all when it comes to performance measures. Pump is all about choosing, creating, and using the best performance measures to execute and achieve your strategy. And because of its uniquely detailed and practical techniques, Pump also takes away much of the challenge of designing this type of progress measure. And if you want to learn those 8 steps of Pump, which, I always am so glad that Stacy made it 8 steps, because it deals with that whole process part that we've been talking about as well, and reduce the challenge of measuring performance in your organization, we're going to segue into this information now. Also, if you have any questions you'd like to ask us, stay around for a while as well, and we'll talk to you directly. So go ahead and type your questions into chat right now as you have them while I go through this, and then we'll come to them. If you're ready to learn Pump, let me give you some extra details. As we mentioned in the beginning, Pump is our flagship methodology to help organizations get more from their strategic performance. Their program, their strategic performance program, and the approach is through very meaningful measurement is what we work towards. Pump is not another thing to just do and get done. It's the detail that's missing from most of your existing strategy performance management approaches, of which I have seen many. And it's often the quality of measures that is lacking. So when you integrate Pump into what you're already doing, not only is it easier to create meaningful performance measures, Pump also helps you get the most from the other progress measures as well. You get to see how they work together. So developing performance measures with the Pump approach will be easier and more meaningful than any other way you've tried before. And that's because of the uniquely practical way Stacy has created Pump's step-by-step techniques that guide the right conversation at the right time about measuring what really matters. So depending on your role and your situation, we have a range of ways you can learn and implement Pump. So we have the public Pump Blueprint Training Workshop coming up. We have 2 of them coming up, but one of them is coming up quicker than the other. We have one in October, so it's October 20 to 24. So that's 5 half days online. And the great thing about them being half is you have the other half to get your work done that's outside of learning. So that's why we structure it that way. And the early bird deadline is coming soon. It's on September 25th. And if that timing doesn't work, the October 20 to 24, we have another one coming up December 1st to 5th, which is the first week of December. And it's our last training workshop of the year. So all the details are over at adurstrategy.com/KPI training. And you see it on your slide there, but also you can just Google Adura Strategy KPI training and it will come as well. And Debbie's probably going to pop that link into the chat for you as well. So if you think a private workshop for your colleagues, so in the public workshops, it's people who join, you can join together, 3 or 4, or 1 of you can join and you're with a group. But you can also have me come into your organization and deliver a private workshop, which some of you that are here today, I've done that with you. Because sometimes that suits you better because you can focus directly on your own material there as well. So once again, just email me at hello@adurstrategy.com and we can set up a time to chat. Now, the other thing that I love doing is helping your leaders become more evidence-based. And I'm delivering one right now for a university. So it's a program that's especially designed for the executive teams of your organization. And you can also find out more about booking a discovery session with me. Again, you can simply email me. We call it the Evidence Leadership Program. So, Stacy, where do you think we're at?
There we go. Yeah, I'm just looking through the bunch of questions. Well, for any of you who are joining us live and you've got a question you'd like to ask, please go ahead and put that in the chat. Particularly if you need to rush off to your next meeting or commitment, we'll still answer it for you if you pop it in the chat. But quite a few of you did submit questions in advance, so we've got them ready to roll. Let's see, Louise, have you got them there in front of you? I'm just wondering if there's
I
an
do. Some of them
order
I
you want to.
know.
Yeah, good. Do you want to
Some
pick the
people I
first one?
know. Well, it's nice to see Odie there. I don't know if she's still online or not. That's the Canadian Human Rights Commission. And yes, so it's related to the federal government, and it's very hierarchical and risk averse, always trying to show that what we are doing is quote unquote effective, which Odie knows is a weasel word. She knows, but they tend to love it. And you know what? I encounter this all the time. So, I always say, I'll finish this. It says this often means picking, choosing data that makes us look good. Okay, so I picked this one because it's very common in my consulting. One is people love their what we call weasel words or corporate jargon or vague ideals. And it's not that we dislike them, it's that they are immeasurable, right? And because they're so immeasurable, we have to do something to fix that so that you can get a better measure. Because if you're just talking about words like effective, they have multiple meanings to people. And that means that they would have multiple measures that people would consider. And this is the power of step 2 in PUMP. And it's a conversation guide that leads the team to what we call unpacking these words so that we end up with what we call a plain language result, which is more measurable, which is the whole point of step 2. And it comes before, for those of you who have not taken PUMP, step 3, which is when we start designing measures. I don't know, anything you want to add there, Stacey?
Yeah, just to reinforce what you've said, Louise, that separating those two decisions is really important. What do we mean by the goal or result that we're trying to measure? Separate that from what do we measure? What should we measure? One definitely has to come before the other, or we end up just with the same old lame measures. But Ode also says about that what this can often mean is picking or choosing data that makes us look good. We call them vanity metrics. And I have a lot of sympathy or empathy for leaders wanting to do that, because they are so unfairly hounded by external stakeholders if the results aren't perfect right away or aren't hitting exactly the right targets. And that's not the way that performance measures should be used. They are not meant to be a tool for judgment and blame. They are supposed to be a tool for learning. So what I'll often advise is that you kind of need two sets of measures. You need the internal set that you're using to learn how to make the organization become more effective. But you've got the external set that's just keeping your external stakeholders comfortable that you're moving in the right direction. You are not wasting taxpayers' money, that you're doing important things and you're doing them as well as you can to keep them out of the way, I guess, keep them placated. So that's kind of the way that it's the only way at the moment that I can think to handle that situation, because it's just quite a sticky one.
Yeah, and sometimes you might look to the other 3 measures for the public ones, right? You might look at status measures or activity measures that you could show publicly, still showing that you're making progress without going into those, more meaningful performance measures, which are going to help them ultimately have better results overall. But I encounter it regularly. It's often because that judging, it's a very common thing as people feel judged. Which is, as we can't say anything more than that's not what measures are for. They're for improvement, but we can't change the world, can we, Stacey?
No, but each of us can make our own little
Yeah,
steps
that's
toward
right.
toward where we wanted to head. So yeah, that's true. Yeah, great. Another question. Is there another one you've got there, Louise, you want to go to?
Well, I was curious about Tamitha. The city of Ottawa is a good client as well. And so I was sort of interested in her question. So what are some ways to move an organization, slash colleagues forward with their data literacy so they are willing to accept and use the best ways to measure and monitor progress? Sometimes organizational culture can be one of the biggest barriers to adoption. I thought you'd probably have a good perspective on that, Stacey.
I've got a new perspective on that. I
I
think
love
my
that.
principle is my principle has always been the same, which is we start with where people are. Wherever they're at, whatever their questions are, that's where we start. So I don't think the full pump blueprint training is appropriate to help people move forward with their data literacy when so much is getting in the way of that, because it's a lot to take on. The blueprint is needed, right? So every organization is going to need that full proper approach to performance measurement, and they're going to need the internal capability to run it, and not just one person. You need, people throughout, people throughout the organization that really understand it and know it. And of course, you need the leadership team knowing the leadership version of it, which we call evidence-based leadership. But anyway, when people are really struggling, they just need little small movements to get an experience that helps them appreciate the value of it, to see that it's not really as hard as they thought. And part of that's keeping it simple. And so my thinking's changing in this. And it hasn't been publicly announced, but I am working on a smaller, lighter program to help bring those people into a space where they can feel and understand the value of measurement, but also start developing some of those basic, very basic pump skills as well. But there's not much I can say about that, Tamitha, and Louise, as you know. But that principle of just starting where they are and giving them a small experience, something really simple, something that helps them appreciate the value, and then see that it's not as hard as they thought, that would be the way I'd tackle it. And that might be starting with a single goal and finding a single measure for that goal, and experiencing it that way. I don't think we need to be statisticians to do this work, quite frankly.
No, yeah. Well, that's what I actually love about XMR charts, is once you learn them, it makes it so simple. But some people see it as difficult and hard. But once you learn how an XMR chart works, it's actually the easiest way to look at data and to look for signals of change.
Over the 25 years we've been running, or over 20 years we've been running pump training, most of the people that come into the program have never seen that chart before and aren't that comfortable. And they're not statisticians, but they know they've got to measure. And it is the one tool that virtually everyone gets excited about, even if they're not numbers people. So, yeah.
Right, which actually sort of segues into Nicole's, she's from Saskatchewan College of Pharmacy. Hello, also plants. And so some key activities in our organization may happen once per year. How long will it take to see if there's a real change or trend in the performance measure? So we have rules, don't we, in the XMR chart that will show us that. But what we know is that you need frequency, right? So with XMR charts, you need frequency. And as I always say in training, annual is rarely frequently enough. That's why we call them status measures. And so, is there anything you want to add to that, Stacey, about how long will it take to see a real change?
I think in addition to what you've said, that we really need we need multiple measure values to determine if something's shifted or not, and we need to measure frequently. The other piece of that is that we've got to appreciate what we're measuring and how long it naturally is going to take to shift. If you are trying to shift the amount of backlog you've got in a work process, you can measure that daily or weekly and get a shift to happen in a matter of weeks. If you are trying to change culture, employee engagement, or some of those longer term, bigger, harder things to shift, you're not going to get changes in a week or two. So measuring it that frequently is not that useful. So you're going to have the patience to wait for the big, slow culture to shift. And that's something that I think we don't talk enough about, because we have this urgency. It's got to happen now. It's got to happen this year. It's got to happen in this planning timeframe. But sometimes it just can't. And there's nothing we can do to change that. Measurement's not going to suddenly make that any different. Lou, we've got a few popping up in the chat here. I might turn to a few of them. So Stephen, this one should be fairly straightforward. Stephen's asking, if you're measuring, say, level of customer satisfaction with a target, is that a quota or a status? It's neither. It's neither. Let me talk this through, Lou, and then you jump in and let me know if you can add to what I'm saying. If we're measuring the level of satisfaction, generally we're measuring that over time. We might have a quarterly satisfaction pulse survey, for example, and we're getting that snapshot of customer satisfaction through time. So we've got measure values every quarter, and maybe we've already been doing it for a few years, and so we've got all that history. So we see that in a line chart. What was the average satisfaction in each of those quarters? and just say that it's been averaging around 63% over the last couple of years. And we'd really like to see it get up to 75%. But we know that it's going to take a bit of time to change customer satisfaction because a whole lot of different business processes are going to have to shift and improve to do that. So like how quickly we deliver to them, how well we treat them, whatever is contributing to it. So we're going to give ourselves some time to achieve that 75%. So we might set that as a target for June next year. We've got a performance measure. That's what we have there. We've got a measure that's measuring an important result, how satisfied our customers are. We're tracking it through time with that quarterly customer satisfaction pulse. And we have set a target for the future that we want to achieve. And so we've now got a performance gap. Our 63% that we're currently averaging at and the 75% we want to get to means we've got a performance gap of 12%. That is a performance measure.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really going to be a status measure because it's not something we're going to measure cumulatively. Satisfaction is something people state how they feel in right now, and those same customers may come back next quarter and feel differently. So we're not measuring anything cumulative here. We're measuring things. As they're happening through time. And it's not really a quota measure either because it's not something that we could give a staff member to do. Can you hit 17 customer satisfactions today? It's not that kind of thing. We're just saying every day, maybe we can say, can you make 10 customer relationship phone calls today? That would be a quota measure. And we want you to try and make 10 every day. Then that's an example of a quota measure. So that's probably, without spending too much time laboring on it, that's probably the best I can explain that difference there. I thought it was going to be quick, but no, it's not. Louise, do you want to add?
Well, we use this in our training, and so after every training we get this and we plot it on an XMR chart, and so that's why I just love to be able to say that customer satisfaction will go up and down. I mean, that's the nature of something that's like this, right? It will go up and down. So by using an XMR chart, you are able to, it's able to tell you much more about that kind of customer satisfaction over time, how it's changing and where it's changing, and how it will be moving closer to target. So customer satisfaction is once again something that's, qualitative, but we quantify it by usually doing ratings, right? And so we're quantifying something that is about how people feel. And so, the other thing I notice is that performance measures always need a statistic. And so in this case, we would probably be average, right? We'd probably be averaging the customer satisfactions for each of the times that we're asking people to respond. Is that right, Stacey?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. You've got a question here too. Might get you to clarify it a little bit. Any advice for an organization where performance measurement suddenly becomes a hype with managers? What could that mean? A hype with managers? Is that they're saying, oh, that's just bandwagon stuff, we just don't need to worry about it? Or do you mean the hype as in they get really excited about it and they really want to suddenly do performance measurement? I'm not quite sure. Louise, is it clear to you?
Suddenly everybody wants to see KPIs.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can relate to that, definitely, York. So, sometimes it's because they don't quite understand what it takes. They want them, and they usually want them quickly, and they want to prove something, but often they don't really know what it takes to do it really well, which what this webinar has been about. When done well, you'll notice we say that quite a bit. So what's your advice of an organization? Well, I think we always go back to what Stacey says, which is, just start. I would say pick something that's really important to those managers that have a hype around it. So what are they trying to achieve first? What's the goal that's really making them want to measure it? Why is it so important? And start with one, and apply those steps of pump, which you have, and you just got to start one at a time and see how they feel as they start to move through those conversations, and see if you can take one of the measures, if it looks like it might have easy to get, some data that's available all the way through the 8 steps, and see how it feels like to them. Because I can't say enough, it's not about having a measure. You have to use it. So maybe they get hyped about the having of it, but they have to get super more hyped about the using of it to close the performance gap.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. Well, you'll get, he's like responding. That's why I took the pump blueprint training recently. Managers can be very impatient. That's it. So I think to pull the nuggets out of what Louise just said, pick one thing and make sure it's a fairly simple thing so you can move very rapidly through it. And as you know, you're in pump, we call that the pump pilot. Make your pump pilot very focused and very as simple as possible so you can move through it quickly and show them the value of doing that deliberate thinking, not just sitting there and brainstorming something.
Mm-hmm.
How are we going, Louise? Are there any other questions that you think we should be answering? There's a few comments in there.
Public service has really good data literacy course. If anybody is in public service, David's sharing that. So I guess David might be open to letting you know about what data literacy is and how to learn it.
Heather said, measuring effort versus the leverage gained from the effort. I love this articulation of the challenge. I have a feeling that this might open up curiosity among leaders. I appreciate your continued attention on leader readiness. Yeah, that's a wonderful observation, Heather. Thank you.
That was early on, wasn't it? I think it was early that was mentioned. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is good. Well, let's call for any last comments or questions or thoughts that anybody wants to leave with us. We have 18 people still with us. We're happy to take, what, a couple more, Stacy?
Yeah, but I think we're starting to see it wrapping up. Michelle, sorry, is heading off, but she's going to see you in October in the pump
Yeah,
workshop.
yay. Woohoo.
Lovely.
Looking forward to seeing you too.
You all go. Thank you and good night from Switzerland. Good grief. What time is it for you there?
9 hours, I think, different than me. So the
Wow.
next day, it's in the morning. Yeah. And thanks. It was lovely to see you, Trina, and so many people that I've met before. So thanks all for joining. You guys were awesome.
Thanks, Crystal. Thanks, Meg. 11 p.m. Yeah, I thought it might be late. Sabrina, thanks. Sandra, thanks. Excellent. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, particularly for such an amazing amount of interaction with us today. That's the fun stuff for us. We like to give you content you find useful, but the reward for us is how you engage with it and how you interact with us. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Louise, as always, thank you so much for your insights as well.
Oh, and thank you. Always a pleasure to work with you, Stacy. And I always learn from you as well on every single one of these. So thanks for the commitment to making pump so easy for people to learn and understand.
We're just a big happy family. Until next time, everyone, thank you so much. I hope you feel more inspired to give pump a try, but bye for now.